Hello guys, welcome to today's episode. We are continuing with the formalities here on the Kuminong Traveling and Lifestyle channel so that we can get this done with and out of the way. Guys, we need to start sharing the nice stuff that gets to happen in Japan. I'm sure we are all curious, what do people eat in Japan? How do they speak? How do they not speak? How do you even greet a person? Konnichiwa, stuff like that, yeah. So let's get the formalities out of the way. So once you've decided or once you pursue whatever opportunity that you wanna come to Japan for, you're gonna need to get a visa. Sometimes people don't understand that a visa process is a separate process from the opportunities to study and to work. And your visa can be denied and declined. So a visa is just a document that says, as a Japanese government, we are taking you for a certain period of time for you to be the resident under this particular category. So in Japan, there are 27 types of visas, 27 guys. So when you come to teach English, you get an instructor visa. I know that because I also was pursuing the English opportunity. I was trying to see if I don't get into studying and pursuing my studies, then I can do English teaching. So yeah, I was already starting to find out which visa am I going to be on. Lucky enough, when I got acceptance in the university, in the program that I really want to be part of, then I decided I'm going to be on a student visa and I'm not going to be a dependent on my husband because I want to study. I want to do my own studies. So even when he was awarded his scholarship, I did not want to be part of be his dependent. Only the children will be his dependent. The reason is because also I was quitting my job, so it is going to be difficult for me to say, you know, I'm coming here to study and or to be whatever. But anyway, it was going to be beneficial for both of us to be on each one of us to be on their own student visas. So we opted for that route for many reasons. We inquired, we checked what are the benefits of both of us being on student visas that are not dependent on each other. We don't even go to the same universities anyway, but we are going to live in the same family. So how we did that is that my husband, through his host, the scholarship, they awarded him the scholarship. They facilitated his visa process. They then got him a student visa, his own student visa. Of course, they are his host, they are hosting him and everything. And then he then said, my family is coming. My family, meaning my 3 children, are coming. And I want them to be depending on me. Of course, they're going to get a visa, dependent visa, and depend on him as their father, who's on a student visa. So I hope that makes sense. But then he's getting a stipend from his scholarship. But back at home in South Africa, he did not quit his job. He is still employed. So there are several things that were required of us as a family. Some of them were very interesting because we needed to send original things to him. So what happened is that he arrived in Japan first with the batch of the scholarship people. They arrived to start their studies in September, and we were facilitating so that we can arrive in December. So what we did was our children's passport that they had at a particular time, they were left with only about 2 years before they lapse, and we know we're going to be here for more than 2 years. So we firstly went to our home affairs in South Africa and we applied for new passports because our passport will expire while we are abroad and we don't want that stress. And that's what also the government of Japan required of us. Make sure that your passport has enough years. So our children, we travel with them within the other African countries. Whenever we took our helper to Lesotho, we would cross over with them where we need a passport. So they were on their second passports at the time. So we then went and applied. They did not even take long because I remember I took them out of school. Of course, when we go and apply for the passports in South Africa, they need both parents to be present and available. So what we did is before their father left South Africa and come to Japan, we went and applied for our daughter, elderly daughter, needed to have a South African ID because she was turning 16, and then the three of them needed to have valid passports. So we were applying for those documents for them. Both parents need to be there. I don't know if where the other parent is somewhere else. I don't know how that works. You'll have to inquire with the immigration in your country or in South Africa. So we both went, and then we applied. We paid the application fees. We brought the photographs, and then for the two younger children, their passports are going to expire again in 5 years because they are still minor children. Even for our elderly daughter, until she turns 18, then we still need to apply for 5 years. So yeah, we got the passports ready before their father left. That I must say already. So when we got to Japan, then we decided the kids are going to be dependent on you, not on me, because I don't have scholarship. They will be declined for the mere reason that I won't be able to prove how am I going to be supporting them. I don't have a scholarship and I already quit my job. I'm going to quit my job. So in order for us to get our children to be dependents, they need to depend on their father. So then he started the process. Then the Ministry of Justice, the MOFA in Japan, they like ask all sorts of questions. What they require of us, guys, is quite interesting, right? They require the proof that children are his. Like both me and him are the parents to the children. We have to prove that we are their parents. Lucky enough, in South Africa, we have what we call unabridged certificates. We did that for our children way back, way before we thought we were going to live somewhere abroad with them. We applied for their unabridged certificates. After birth, before in South Africa, they were giving us just a normal certificate. So unabridged has all the details of the mother and father. And lucky enough, our new passports, our new children passports, they all have mother and father at the back nowadays in South Africa. So you don't have to worry about that. So we had those documents, we had the certificate, their birth certificates and their passports, which all had our details to say we are their parents. And then what they needed also was that they needed a marriage certificate. They needed to see that these children have a mother and father. And yeah, I can't remember what was the reasoning behind that. But the interesting part that caught us by surprise was that as they were, okay, anyway, before I get there, they needed these documents to be translated into Japanese because they are all written in English, and people who are processing documents, they speak Japanese. So my husband then got someone to translate, do copies of all the certificates, unabridged and everything, translate them into Japanese. So all certificates were now translated into Japanese, even our marriage certificate. And the other thing that they wanted was what? Yeah, so those are the documents that they needed, and then they were translated into Japanese, and then he submitted them. And while they're processing the documents, they're like, oh, we need the original passports. We need to see the original passports. So I was still with the children in South Africa. So we go to DHL, we then post all the original passports, we send them over to Japan. They arrive within a day or two. DHL is quite fast, is quite good. So all that we do is to go to the Postnet, because I was used to going to Postnet to send my school stuff in university, in Kyoto University. They always needed originals. They don't want certified this and this. I don't know why they needed originals anyway. But anyway, we go through Postnet, we submit all the original certificates and original passports. And then my husband received them in his address, and then he takes them to the Home Affairs in Japan. And a day or two later, they call him to come to the office. They're like, we are processing your documents. We want to issue your children the certificate of eligibility so that they can be given visas on the embassy in South Africa. But we have a question that we want to ask you. We see here that one of your child was born before you married their mother. Is it your child? You will have to prove to us that it's your child. So yeah, that's our story that that caught us by surprise. They asked him to prove that he's the father of our first child, because what we did, me and him, is that as soon as we had a child, we did not want to just rush and get married and then change surnames and change things just because, we now have a child that we had before we got married. We then still continued, know each other, do the formalities right, up until we were sure that, we want to be in this marriage together. Then we then got married later on. So that for them, our marriage certificate dates and the birth dates of the children, they matched everything. They read every little thing that's written in the documents, and they called him and asked him about them and say, are you sure these are your children? And they asked him many times, like, are you sure these are your children? Because according to them, they don't want to give somebody who's your relative, even if you use the same surname, they don't want to give them certificate of eligibility as if it's your direct family member. Remember, the visa of dependent talks to your parents, your birth parents. If it's in my case, it talks about my birth parents, not my mother-in-law. If it's in my husband's case, we talk about his birth parents and his wife and children. Those are the direct people that can depend on him. Any other relative, uncles and whoever, even if you use the same surname, they can't be your dependent in Japan. So they wanted to make sure that this child is not one of our relatives that maybe we use the same surname and now we are throwing in her details as if it's part of our family, direct family. So the person who was translating and helping my husband did explain that it's not because they want to be discriminatory or something. But that shocked us because we were like, so they read all these things? Like, they read that we got married this time before our son was born. Yes, our son is fine, our other daughter is fine. But because the first daughter, we then delayed getting married, they're like, prove to us that this is your child. So yeah, so how he got to prove that is that obviously all the documents had his name as a father all along, like he's the father of this child. We just decided to get married late. So the clash between dates of when we got married and when she was born was the problem for them. It went back and forth, I think about a day or two. But once that was settled, they understood. I think in Japan, a lot of things are very interesting. I must say, they are very interesting to such a point that sometimes you look at them and you're like, yeah, but anyway, so that got out of the way. They issue us what we call the certificate of eligibility. Then my husband received those in original. I need originals of certificate of eligibilities and the original passport and original certificates so that I can apply for their visas in the embassy in South Africa. So he has to post them back again. So we had to do back and forth, back and forth. Lucky enough, no documents got lost along the way because that's our biggest worry. With all that was happening, we were worried that our original marriage certificate will get lost, our original children's certificates will get lost, everything original, like it doesn't need to get lost. So DHL was very, very, very thorough and they were very good with handling our documents. Nothing was lost, nothing was opened along the way. Everything he will send, I will track within 24 hours or 48 hours. We used to receive our documents, and then we took that to South Africa in the embassy in Japan. And then once you have certificate of eligibility in South Africa, they don't waste your time, really. So I was applying for my student visa and then applying for the children's dependent visa. So also I did not want the confusion. I decided to handle the process separately because I don't want them to say, but you are applying for children to depend on someone, but you're the mother. And so I applied for the children's visa separately, and when they were issued within a day or two, then I started applying for my student visa later on because I don't want all this get into narratives and stories and whatnot. So my visa was on its own. So yeah, with my visa, as I was saying, that I was required to prove also to say, how are you going to sustain yourself? How are you going to pay your fees? And so I approached my university. I asked them for certificate of eligibility. They have certain things that they wanted to ask me first. How are you going to pay your fees? Show us. Then I show them. We had some savings that were stacked in our mortgage. We were paying ahead so that we got against interest and stuff like that. Also our savings within our accounts. then we prove that, okay, for me, I'm not on a scholarship, but I will be able to self-fund and I will be able to sustain my life in Japan. So my university gave me the certificate of eligibility. They posted it original. It also, oh yeah, I needed to send them my passport as well. But I think it was a copy, not an original. Yeah, I can't remember very well. But anyway, they ended up getting me the certificate of eligibility, which was then posted to me as an original. I took that to the embassy in South Africa, where they processed everything for me. So our visa application processes for ourselves and the children with my husband, it took less than a week because it was facilitated by his scholarship. He was on a student visa, and then with the children it took quite some time because of the back and forth, sending originals to Japan and back to South Africa. But it was only one send back to South Africa. Yeah, but once we submit in the embassy in South Africa, it took at least less than a day. Then they awarded us, all of us, 3 years visas. And the children were awarded more time. I don't know what was the rationale behind that, because even the person they're depending on had his 3 years, but the children had more. So we were like, you guys, we were joking about it. So we are going to live in Japan because we have longer visas to live in Japan. But yeah, that's that. Even for my visa, it took, as long as you have certificate of eligibility, they trust that whoever says you're coming that site, they did their checks and they are happy with what you showed them. So yeah, in terms of the minimum balances that they required me to have in banks and stuff like that, there was nothing like that. Actually, they were just asking me to show them where we will be staying at the time. I think my husband had already started signing a lease, and then we just took our lease agreement to the embassy and say this room will be staying and stuff like that. And they were happy with everything we submitted. Within a day or two, then they did say that our visas were ready, we can come and collect them. So that's how we got the visas. I want to explain the benefits of being on student visas, but I want to do that as a separate video so that this one doesn't get long. So guys, this is how the process of getting the visas, and then we were both on student visas. Our children were on dependent visas, but the 5 of us, the entire family, were all students. So thank you for watching this episode, and I hope it makes sense for you how you can apply for your visa, how long it takes, the requirements, even though I was just generically touching on a generic level, on a high level. Every situation is different. What we got required might not be required of you, and what I said we got to submit might be for you, might be more. So we don't know. You'll have to see when you go through your own process, because some of the things that we thought we read online, we did not even know that we needed to translate our certificates or our documents, but yeah, those things were required. So thank you for watching today's episode. Please do subscribe, please. Thank you so much. God bless you.